Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's iOS Update. This time out, an amazing synthesis app from Moog Music. Let's get started. There are a number of ways that I find out about the apps that we feature here on the iOS Update. I may find them online, read about them in a magazine, sometimes a developer contacts me, but my favorite way is when a musician I trust tells me about an app, and that's exactly what happened with this app here. Daniel Fisher, our Director of Product Optimization, and actually someone else here at Sweetwater, Dave from the marketing department, also told me about this app. They said you have to check out Model 15 from Moog Music. So I checked it out, and I'm bringing it to you today. The Model 15 was an analog synthesizer that Moog came out with in 1973. You had to patch all the different modules together. There were no presets, there were no effects built in, but it was an amazing sounding synthesizer, and they reissued it recently. It goes for about $10,000. So it's really cool that we now have that same functionality, that same sound quality inside an iPad, an iPhone, or an iPod Touch for about $30. So Daniel, you actually were involved with this app from basically the beginning. You created a sound bag for it, correct?
Yeah, when they contacted me at Moog, they knew that I had done a lot of work on these actual modulars, the System 55 and the Model 10, back at Northern Illinois University back in 1980. So I've been doing this for 30 plus years, goofing with this stuff, and they wanted me to create a bank and really push the engine as hard as I could, and that created the Psychotropic Stereo Bank.
That sound bank's available as an in-app purchase along with several other sound banks, but the app comes with 160 factory sounds.
Yeah, it does leads, pads, effects, pretty much any kind of sound you could make on a Model 15, but unlike the Model 15 original, this will do 4 notes of polyphony. And then it all goes into a stereo ping pong delay that's controllable via these little voltage cables. You can control the time and the modulation and the mix. So it is a really powerful creation tool.
Right, absolutely. So one of the things that's really fun about this is we have actual patch cables, and you can move those cables around. That's basically how you create the sound, is that right?
You put your finger on it, and you can drag a cable, and it's very intuitive in that only the places that you're allowed to go to, which is quite a few, light up, and you can scroll to any part of this as well as enlarge it. And at that point, you see that they've exactly captured the detail of an actual Model 15, right down to all the little panel creases and everything. I mean, they really nailed it.
It's a beautiful interface.
It is. It is.
So when you're working with this, how do you start? Do you like say, okay, I'm going to take an oscillator, and then you patch a filter to it, or?
So yeah, you can easily modify simply by turning any of the knobs, or you can move a patch cable, and you can do it all very comfortably because it has an unlimited number of undos that you can back up. I even actually deleted one of my best patches once, and I thought it's gone forever, hit undo, and even throwing a patch away comes back. So it gives you a certain level of confidence. So you can modify any patch and then save it as your own or rename it, or you can start from scratch. You just hit the patch button, you hit new preset, and now you've got a blank canvas to work on. All the modules are available, nothing's plugged in, and you can start simple. You could take an oscillator out and connect it right to the output, and you'll hear it. And you can go, plus you've got ranges. Then you could take the output of that and send it through a filter. And again, only the inputs that it'll work with light up. So it kind of trains you what to do. Now that I'm in a filter, I could go into a voltage-controlled amplifier. And then from the amplifier, I could go to my final output. And now you're not going to hear anything until I connect an envelope to that. And then I can give myself a keyboard. And now, and just like on a regular Model 15, I've got full control over it. Attack, decay, sustain, release. And I can quickly change octaves. And then I can set anything to control anything, whether it's filter here. If, for example, I wanted the filter to be controlled by mod wheel, I can take a mod wheel out connect that to the filter. And so everything on this is very easy to do. If all of a sudden you make a connection where it stops working and you don't understand it, just hit undo. You move back one level. So it's really a lot of fun to play with. There are a lot of banks that you can buy or look at that already exist and just try things out. And the tutorial is brilliant as well.
Right, right. And you actually have, you've shown us the keyboard here, but there are actually 5 total ways that you can control, well, more than 5, but 5 ways you could use a MIDI keyboard, as we showed at the beginning here, where you were plugged into the Apple Camera Connection Kit. You could use the regular keyboard, and you also have the Moog keyboard, correct?
Yeah, so this is like the Moog, and the cool thing about the Moog keyboard is that as you slide your finger up and down the key, you're actually adding aftertouch, which I don't have plugged in anything, but aftertouch can be assigned to anything that accepts voltage. And you can also pick in here, you could pick what scale the Moog keyboard is, so you can only have keys that you'll need for that particular piece.
And we also have an arpeggiator built in.
Yep. And the nice thing about the arpeggiator is not only will it run through as many notes as you hold down, but it lets you do things like pitch offsets, velocity offsets, and so you can actually create more complex things happening while you're holding them down. You can change gate length, you can make the notes stick, so you can press keys and then start adjusting knobs. It really is a lot of fun to play with.
Right, right. And finally, we have the ribbon controller.
Yep, just like on the original, you've got a ribbon cable that has both the trigger as well as a slider. It also has a little secondary slider, and you can control per patch whether those sliders spring back or stay where you leave them. A tremendous amount of flexibility.
Right, right. And with the addition of the effects, then you can add that spaciousness, get delay effects along with arpeggiations. There's a lot of things you can do with this that you could never do with just the analog synthesizer
Absolutely.
itself. Now, you were talking about how you've really pushed this to the limit. The bank that you created is called Psychotropic Stereo, but this is actually a monophonic synthesizer.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it has a left and a right, but typically the main source of stereo is this ping pong delay that's here, and it's a really nice delay. You can modulate in real time, and it does all those tricks that I love to do with delays.
Right.
But what I wanted to try and do with the bank that I created was push the engine as hard as I could, and so I have entirely separate signal paths going to left and right to create both phase changes as well as pitch changes, and then that's going into a stereo ping pong delay. So a lot of really interesting stuff to play with.
Right. Right. So it's so cool because you can work on very basic sound patches. You can learn about synthesis, whether you're just working with a basic oscillator and an amplifier or putting a filter in there, or you can take it all the way, as you've done, to very, very complex things. And this app gives you the capability to do that in a very easy and very friendly fashion.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of applications. I mean, you could have a school where every student had one of these, and it would absolutely take you through quite a number of years of synth training. And even as a performance thing, we showed you can connect a keyboard, but for example, I connected a Korg Bluetooth keyboard and it accepts Bluetooth. And so you literally could have this app on an iPhone in your pocket, that connected to something, and just a Bluetooth keyboard with no wires and be playing this. Right. And with 4 notes of polyphony plus effects, it could be your keyboard rig.
Right, absolutely. Lots of fun and a great sounding app. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us. You're the expert on this, and I appreciate getting your insights and a little bit of a quick tutorial there on how to operate the app.
Certainly.
And thank you for joining me for Sweetwater's iOS Update. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more apps, hardware accessories, and tips on making music with your iOS devices. I'm Mitch Gallagher.